When I started this channel, everyone was talking about finding a niche. And true, a lot of the channels I follow have a specific focus. Niches like just sculpting horses or just painting nature. So I split my art across different accounts, thinking that's what I had to do, and realized that wasn't me. I'm a multi-passionate creative. I thrive on trying it all. I love to sculpt horses, draw cattle, paint scenery from my hikes, and chase micro passions, which right now my micro passion is elephants. And so I've realized my niche is that I don't have a niche. If that sounds fun, sweet. Let's have a chatty art time together. I'd love to show you what it's been like to chase my multiple creative interests this summer as I learn to juggle all of these different art forms in my free time. If you're new here, hi. If you know me, welcome back. I hope you all enjoy. Out of all the things I make, it's kind of tempting to say that sculpture is my thing. Certainly, some of my favorite projects have been highly realistic, detailed horse sculptures, silly little frogs, and right now I'm all obsessed with learning how to sculpt realistic elephants. I can definitely get lost in sculpture for hours. And it certainly was the niche that took off, especially here on YouTube. Yet, I'm a multi-passionate creative through and through. Pretty much as soon as my tiny little hands grew enough to hold onto things, my mom gave me pencils, crayons, paintbrushes, and Play-Doh to keep me occupied as a kid. At a young age, my first art love was actually photography. Photography was also the first art form I felt I was good at, and also the first I seriously studied and competed with. So, my young self just assumed my artistic identity was simply photographer. As I grew older, I slowly started to embrace the artist label as I realized drawing, painting, sculpting, digital art, and graphic design were strong passions as well that weren't going away. Now I realize they are actually much more connected than that. For example, photography taught me about light and interesting shapes, which makes me think a lot about how light plays out on my sculptures. It inspires me to ask myself, how can I pose my sculptures into dynamic shapes? Drawing helped me figure out anatomy, and the more I learned about drawing, the easier painting became. Graphic design fueled a love for color and stylization, which lives strong in printmaking now. And in a way, printmaking is even more drawing, with a little bit of sculptural carving too. It all connects. And what I really love is how being a multi-passionate creative lets me take any animal or nature passion and translate those passions into all sorts of art. Like right now, I've built up enough skills that I can start sculpting my first elephant, and drawing has helped me learn a whole new animal anatomy and translate that into clay. It's made me think, what other art skills could I learn, and how could those connect back to everything I do, or everything I love? In addition to animals, I love nature. I love the peace of being in nature, learning how it works, and standing in awe of all these life forms and geology all around us. Trying to render that in art feels like both an endless challenge and super exciting to attempt. I've talked in previous videos about learning to paint, especially painting animals on flat surfaces like paper or canvas, instead of just painting my sculptures. Now I'm adding nature art to that goal as like a sub-goal, I guess. Nature painting is a much newer art adventure for me, and it's teaching me how to be a beginner again. I have to say, even though it can be frustrating at times, I'm also really liking it. It's nice to try something new again, and since I've taught myself other art before, I know I'll learn this too.
Gave it all we got. It was
This is letting me slow down and appreciate growing a new skill, and to appreciate even the rough stuff or the bad stuff. Before, I never really had that chance to appreciate just growing, or I felt I didn't have time to enjoy learning something new. I didn't feel that I had the time to be bad at something. So now I'm trying to make as many different types of nature paintings and drawings as I can, both to learn a new style and also just to enjoy making different things. They don't have to be good. In fact, this is my chance to redefine what even is good nature art to me. I think for now, good nature art is art that simply exists. If it exists, I can ask myself later if I like it or not and why. The answers point me into the directions of what to make next. As I find my favorite techniques and develop a style, good paintings will simply be the paintings that bring that all together and make me happy. But let's get back to animal art. One of my other goals is to improve my animal anatomy, and I like to do this with drawing exercises such as time drawing references, working from my own photos, and drawing from life. This summer, I got the chance to attend some public animal shows. To prepare for those, I used time references from YouTube channels like Art Prof and Animal Drawing References for quick gesture studies. For more detailed drawings, I referenced my own photos as well as some anatomical diagrams. I didn't want to just copy though. I wanted to find quick stylization to help me create drawing shortcuts I could use outside when drawing the real thing later. For example, by reimagining the anatomy charts, I learned that I like to translate all of these muscle groups here with a simple swooping line. The little line is enough to hint at that anatomy, and it's fast to draw when looking at real moving animals. So here's all the pages of anatomy drawings from both my big and little sketchbooks. And here's the farm animals I drew from life at a county fair. You really get to see the difference from a quick life drawing versus a longer drawing made at home. I think that's kind of cool. I also attended a horse show where I got to draw some really cool breeds of horses and gather lots of reference photos for sculpting. I thought it would be fun to sketch out some of them and see if any might be a good starting point for a painting too. So let's start a sketchbook spread. All right, so bear with me for a second as I talk about the perk of being a multi passionate artist. As a multi passionate artist, you can learn cool tips from anywhere. For example, something landscape painting has taught me is how often other artists edit the scenery in front of them. They'll do things like change the size or position of trees to get a composition that feels more pleasing to them, which really stuck with me because you might argue those paintings aren't realistic because they're not recording everything exactly as it looks. Yet, I was so amazed by how real the paintings looked. So, with that in mind, I'm editing my own reference and changing ear positions, head positions, or maybe making necks look thicker or thinner. All the sketches should still feel lifelike, but they won't match my reference photos. Picking one of these sketches as the basis for a painting gives me even more opportunity to really edit and really deviate from my reference. Anyway, I think it's pretty cool that something I read in a landscape painting book is now having an impact on my horse paintings. Like I said, it's all connected. If I wasn't interested in trying nature art, I probably would never have read that landscape book and maybe never learned a lesson that helps my horse paintings. I really fell in love with the larger sketch of this Frisian as a drawing, so instead of painting over that, I scanned and transferred it to some nice watercolor paper. This also lets me size it for a 5 by 7-inch mat for framing, which is a size I'm really loving for gouache paintings right now. By the way, all of my supplies are listed below if you're curious. There's also a playlist for all of my different art projects down there if you're feeling in the mood for a binge session. As you've probably gathered by now, some art forms I have a deeper and longer lived relationship with than other art forms. Painting was something I did just for fun as a kid, and I took an introductory painting course as a young adult. Painting wasn't the kind of art I was making regularly or passionately. It wasn't until later in 2021 that I set out to properly learn it and try to understand as many different techniques and media as possible. So here we are, as I'm currently immersed in learning traditional gouache paints for animals and landscapes. Since starting this painting goal, color theory has finally clicked for me. While I had a teacher tell me how important it was that I learn to make a mixture look less saturated, it didn't click until I wanted to reduce the orange color on one of my chestnut horse sculptures. Then I finally had personal context for that advice and could finally see how it connected to what I actually wanted to do. Then it was like, oh, I need to use those neutralizing color theory tips to desaturate this. I get it now. I've been thinking a lot about that kind of stuff recently, about what rules or advice I've heard and how they could connect to my goals or how they don't. I've been trying to give things a proper try to see if it fits into my goals and then asking if I want to continue using it. That way, I know firsthand if it's truly right for me. For example, I was told to never use black paint straight from a tube and to instead mix my own from other colors, because the results will be flat if I use straight from a tube. Or so I was told. I've been testing that out and found that on one hand, I can use black paint straight from the tube to good effect. If it looks flat, I can simply mix a little blue, purple, or red to shift the color temperature however I want and add as much depth as I want. I've also discovered a lot of different kinds of black paint that have a range of pigments in them for different effects. For example, did you know that lamp black has a strong blue shift? If you add white to it, you can get different shades of blue, letting you use lamp black as a blue substitute. In fact, a popular color palette known as the Zorn palette uses red, yellow, white, and lamp black, where lamp black is the stand-in for both blue and black. I would never have learned that if I took the advice to never use black paint straight from the tube. On the other hand, I'm trying to get better at mixing my own black paint from other colors, which is what I did with this painting. I made all the black colors from only 4 colors, neither of which were black paint themselves. I used a mix of ultramarine blue with burnt sienna and a mix of viridian green with violet. Depending on the mixing ratios, I could get a deep midnight black color, or a nice dark brown, or a soft blue-black color, or whatever I wanted. And that range is kind of fun, especially in the washes, which is where I add a lot of water to thin the paint color. The washes really hint at which mixtures had which colors in them. As for the person who told me to mix my own black paint, I think this is what they wanted me to experience. So there was value to their advice, yet there's also value in using tube paints too. Like I said, it's good to explore everything and see what fits for you. Well, that was pretty fun. Actually, I think it was awesome that I got to show you a bunch of what I'm working on in one video, and now you have a good idea of what I'll be sharing more of. Normally, any one of my projects sits on my hard drive for months until I have enough clips to put together a process video, and then it's like, boom, horse sculpting video, out of nowhere. Well, not really. I publish videos monthly, it's not that surprising. But anyway, yay! It was fun to share sneak peeks for a change. So I hope you enjoyed this new format. If you're new here and like chatty process videos and connect with the challenge of juggling multiple creative passions, I think we might have a blast together on YouTube. You might even enjoy this next video. Either way, thanks so much for watching. Hope to see you in the next one. Bye!